I'm going to show you one of the ways that I go through the components on a site and determine which points are being used in Historian that they shouldn't be. The first step is identifying all the points that are historical yet have nothing written to them or nothing writing to them. So we'll go here to View, Reports, Variable, Global, and we'll let that run. When we get this global report open, we want to come to Report, Change Columns. We want to use this button here to remove all the columns that it allows us, except for the remaining two. And then we're going to go down to Historical Deadband. We're going to add it, move it to the top, and then Written. And hit OK. This now shows us the columns that we can work with. We want to add a filter by clicking the Apply Filter button. And here we're going to look up Historian Deadband. And we're going to say does not equal. And we're going to put the value -1. -1 is the value for not used in Historian Deadband. When you look in the actual toolbox, it'll say 0 or blank, but when you actually export it or put in a report, it'll show -1. So we don't want to see any points that are not being used. And we're going to use the qualifier and then come here and select the column Written. And we're going to put equals. False. And this shows us all the points that are in this component that are actually in the Historian that have nothing written to them. If you come down here at the bottom, you'll see there are 55 of these points. Now we can take this report and double click on each line item, and it'll take it directly to the logic where it's used. In this case, if we go to where used on our Tools tab, we'll see nothing's written to that, just as the report stated. So we don't need this point. And we'll wipe it out. Now, the important thing to note here is that when you do this, you're removing a point from EGD if you wipe the entire point out. This means you're going to have to compress your EGD, and that next time you download this, you're going to lose those points on the screen. And you typically don't want to do this on an operating unit because of the comms between them, if you haven't set up dedicated pages for critical comms. Another way to do this was you could just come over here and select rather logged unchanged. You could look not logged. In this case, I'm trying to remove all this bloat from the software, so I'm just getting rid of a dead point that's not used at all. And you would go through and do this for every single point in these 55 points. While I'm on a mission to remove these 55 points, I'll also focus on removing any unused points as well, just to minimize the bloat. Some of these points you'll find you're not going to be able to remove, as in this position CV. It's recording this in Historian, but it's not even configured to have position feedback. So we'd have to go into the object, into its variables, and just disable, since we cannot delete it. Now, occasionally you'll come across points that are not being written, but they are being used elsewhere, so you won't be able to eliminate these points without a significant amount of work. So in this exercise, we're just going to remove these from Historian and circle back around and see why they're not there. Now, once you get all of these deleted or removed from Historian Deadband where you couldn't delete them, you're going to have to go here to EGD and compress. Of course, if you didn't do this step and you just did a build, you would get the warnings, or errors actually. So to prevent that delay, we just come here to our produce pages, and on these we're on page 1, so we'll just compress page 1. Now when we build, and then we're going to download. As with any download, we always want to verify that we're only downloading what we think we're downloading, which in this case would be the application code. Want to make sure we're on the status bar where we can see what's going on with our update on the download. So we're going to go next through all of our warnings. Are you sure? Are you double sure? Are you really, really sure? Are you absolutely positively sure? Yes. And then we're going to go through. So we're downloading to S, so we're going to see it come up here on the bottom. Unloading complete. I want to make sure that our idle time comes back up to normal rather than being orange or red, and that our firmware revision still shows build 133 and matches the other unit. If it had 100 or if it turned red, that means that we've bricked our firmware and we don't want to download, we want to revert. But we look good, so we're going to accept it. Now that we're done with this step, we're going to want to go through and look at our historian. So we open up our historian component, we go online, and it's going to show us it's equal. And you could actually wait for this to rectify itself over time, but I always like to do a build and download on my historian component. Going to force a download and make sure it updates. And now I'm going to remote into my historian and look at the OSI software to see how many tag points we have. Now that we're in historian, we're going to come and open our management tools. We're going to come to operation, licensing, resources, and max point count. And we're going to see that we have a license for 10,016 points, and we've used 9,845, and we have 171 left. This does not take into account the changes we just made. To see those, we'd have to go up to points, stale and bad points. We want both, and let's see what we have. Here we'll see all the points that we just took out of the one controller BOPC, when they went bad, and that we're going to have to clean these up. This is when we just did the download. Come down here to points, point builder, do the search, make our status configure, we select all of these, and then put them all here. At this point we could come right click, delete from Pi, yes to all, and delete these all from Pi now. And then to close everything out, we want to go check these in, and we always want to leave a comment.